Hi, in this video we're going to take a look at the new Garmin inReach Mini 2, the compact satellite communicator with two-way communication and GPS. The main things we're going to look at is the features that we have compared to the original inReach Mini that this one has now replaced. I've got the unit here in flame red. It's also available in black as well. So I'm just going to open the box first and we'll see what we get inside the box. So this is the inReach Mini 2, and physically it is the same size, dimensions and weight as the original device. Full specs are shown in our spec list on our website for the products. So this is the flame red, and I'm just going to see what else we get in the box. So we've actually got a carabiner clip, a USB cable and some Garmin documentation. Typical Garmin documentation, that'll be a shortcut guide for the unit. So we've got that inside the box as well. I'm just going to move that to one side. We'll just take a look at the other bits that we've got. So the same as the original inReach Mini, we've got the carabiner clip that just threads through the webbing on the back of the unit, so you can attach it, say, to the back of your backpack. We have already seen in the spec that the charging cable now is actually USB-C, so it just makes it a bit more universal rather than the typical USB Mini or micro we get with Garmin units. It's a USB-C cable, and the charging port will be in the same place as the original inReach Mini. Double check, yep, just behind the rubber flap there. Rubber flap just seals it from weather. It's the same weather rating as the original unit, the IPX7, so fine being outdoors in all weathers. IPX7 weather rating. So like we say, it's the same weight and actually basically looks physically the same size as the original inReach Mini. SOS button on the side. So one of the main things we get an inReach for is in case we come into difficulty and we have to summons help. The SOS button, when the unit's turned on, pressing that SOS button will send a message to the GEOS monitoring station 24/7, and then you actually get a text message back on the screen letting you know what's happening and that help is on its way. I'm just going to actually, on-off button on the top is in the same place, so we can turn it on with the on-off button. So SOS button in the same place. Same as the original inReach, it's got the OK button that you use when you're on an icon that you want to go into or a menu. The back arrow to come back out of a screen. If I turn it over on the other side, we've got the up and down arrows that let you select the screen that you want to go on. So in essence, very similar to the original inReach. It's a device that you buy to use as an emergency SOS summons help. And because it's a two-way communicator, you actually see the messages come back on the screen that someone's, on the way, that help is on its way. You can also use it like the original inReach for map sharing, which is basically sharing your tracking. You pay various subscription levels, so it is subscription based. More information on our frequently asked questions on the subscriptions. So when you subscribe and pay for a package, friends and family using satellites can track where you are and see you moving across a map. You can also send shortcut messages letting friends and family know everything's okay, but you're not necessarily needing help. And also you can pair it with an app on the phone, which I'm going to talk about in more detail, to type individual messages like you would type a text message, but you're actually using the Iridium satellites that the unit has to send those messages. So a lot of the features that we saw on the original inReach itself. So I'm just going to move the carabiner out the way and the USB cable, and I've already turned the unit on. The screen actually does have slightly higher pixels than the original unit, so it's still the black and white monochrome screen that is sunlight readable, but the pixels are now 176 by 176 compared to the original unit that was 128 by 128. So I'm just going to use the OK here to select the English language. I'm not actually going to initiate this one that you would normally do. You would actually initiate the device and set up your account. So again, I'm just going to come out of there and just say we're going to skip the pairing. So OK to skip the pairing there, and just move down again just to skip that. So it's back to just the time now. Normally you would start setting it up and creating your account. One thing we did see in the spec is that they've made the menus a little bit easier. So when you use the up and down to go through the menus, on the old one you used to just see one menu at a time. This actually lets you see what's coming up or what menu's behind. And say the navigation menu here, if I OK that, you can then scroll up and down and see the various options. So I'm just going to hit back to come out of there. So they've just made the menus a little bit easier to find your way around, but the same buttons that are labelled with the OK, the back button and the up and down. So let's talk about what's new compared to the inReach, the original one. What things do we like and what's been improved? I think the big one first is the battery life. The original unit, if you were tracking every 10 minutes, so friends and family could see where you were every 10 minutes on a map, you would get 90 hours tracking. With this unit, you actually get 14 days tracking at 10-minute intervals. There's various options where you can change the intervals and put them up or down, which either reduce or increase that battery, but it's just as a good comparison, 14 days at 10 minutes on the new unit compared to 90 hours at 10 minutes on the original inReach unit. So that's something we really like. They've basically improved the processor in the unit. It's been optimized for battery performance. It's like everything in the Garmin units. It's the same as the wearables, the watches, the Phoenixes, the Instinct watches. Battery life's getting better and better all the time. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we're looking at on this new unit is some of the extra navigational features that they've put into it. Now, yes, it is a black and white monochrome screen, but you can use it a bit like, I suppose, an eTrex 10 to load a course on the unit and follow a course on the unit or a trackback. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail, but I'm actually just going to go to one of the screens that I did have up before. It's actually the navigational screen. I'm just going to move down to the compass. What is different on this new unit, it actually has an electronic compass. So even when you're stationary, that electronic compass will show which way you're heading. And if you were following a course that you've sent to the unit, it will turn with you. The older unit didn't have an electronic compass, so you had to be moving for that compass to work. So that's one of the new features that they've added. We actually can pair this new inReach Mini 2 with the app called the Garmin Explore app. That's an app that we currently use with things like the Phoenix and Instinct watches and some of the newer handheld devices. So it's just trying to make everything a bit more universal and uniform. So we're using the same app with all of the Garmin devices. What that app allows you to do doesn't cost anything when you've got a unit already like the inReach Mini 2. You download the app onto something like an iPhone or an Android phone, and that app actually has topographical maps on it. So you can actually plan courses on the app. You can even get it to snap onto trails, and you can sync those courses with the inReach Mini 2. So just as a bit of a backup, even if you have got a handheld device with colour maps, you can have the courses back up on the inReach Mini 2. You couldn't do that with the older unit. It'll actually store up to 100 courses. And of course, with the electronic compass now, it makes the navigation a lot better because you don't have to be moving for the map to orientate, or sorry, the course to orientate the way you want to follow. The unit will also record up to 200 activities. So a bit like a handheld device, you can record where you've been with the unit, and then you can actually sync that with the Explore app so you can see where you've been on the Explore app. It'll record up to 200 activities. You can also mark waypoints like you could in the old unit, but this one will actually store 1,000 waypoints, so you can mark a waypoint. What we like is, with the new unit, you can actually set different grid position formats, for your grid references that you would see on a paper map to cross-refer. With the older inReach, we only had the option of, from the top of my head, it was longitude and latitude and UTM, UPS. But with the new unit, what we've noticed, I'll just actually go into the settings now, you've got the grid system that we see in the handheld units and the likes of the Phoenix and Instinct watches. It's sort of matching what those devices have. So if you're in Great Britain, you could set up Ordnance Survey, British Grid in the unit, and then when you use the Mark Waypoint button, it will actually give you a grid reference that you can match with your paper map. So just in the position formats here, just going to go in. So we've got the typical HDD, MMM, the longitude and latitudes. I can see straight away here I've got Austrian grid, Borneo, there's the British grid, so I can set it as British grid if I wanted, and that'll work and match your Ordnance Survey Great Britain map, so you can get a grid reference out of the unit using the Mark Waypoint. Just hitting the back button there. Sorry, I'll just go back into units. I didn't mean to come out of there so quick. And I'm just going to scroll down. I'm not going to go down every one, but those of you familiar with the handheld units are like the Phoenix 6, 7 watches, you'll see it's got very much the similar grid references you see in the units in those. If I scroll right the way down to the bottom, they're all alphanumeric. We've got the Irish grid system, and if I keep going down, New Zealand there, and we should still have the UTM in here, the same as we had on the older units. So as well as long and lat, we still got the universal UTM as well. So that's a nice new feature. The other thing on this unit that's different to the older one, it will actually lock onto not just GPS satellites to give your position on the ground, but also the Galileo system and the QZSS. That's giving you the advantage that there's more satellites to look for. So if you have got not as good a view as the sky, you've got a better chance of getting a quicker satellite lock and a more accurate lock for your position on the ground. That is then still transmitted using the Iridium system if you have got friends and family monitoring you or using the SOS button. So it's still got the Iridium that we use for the safety side of things, but it now has Galileo and QZSS rather than just the GPS system for potentially a quicker and more accurate fix. So that is something new that has been added. We've mentioned about the navigational side of things and being able to follow potentially a course. What they've also done is with this new unit, you can do a track back, so like a breadcrumb trail, and follow your footsteps of where you've been. You could do that on the old unit, but you had to start the tracking. Now sometimes you find scenarios where you may turn the unit on so it's ready if you needed to use the SOS button, but you're not actually started the tracking. So if you hadn't started the tracking, you weren't able to do a track back. Little emergency feature, I would call it, or safety feature on the new inReach Mini 2 is whenever you turn the unit on, it will automatically start recording every 10 minutes. It's not every minute or every 2 minutes, it's every 10 minutes automatically of where you are, and you can use that to track back with a line on the screen to get back to the start. What's nice to find is that Garmin have based the battery life that I mentioned before, this battery life of 14 days at 10-minute intervals. That actually does include that tracking that automatically starts when you turn it on, so there's no reason really to turn that function off, and it's a nice new safety feature. So that's something new that they've added to the unit. So really, that's the gist of the new features. Hopefully, you've got an idea of how we're using it with regards to the original unit. You're paying a subscription, but that covers you for the SOS button, summons and help, friends being able to track you using the Explore app and see where you are on a map. You being able to pair it with an app on a phone so you can send courses to the device, but also from the phone you can type a text message to friends and family for contacts that you've put in for the inReach Mini 2, but it's actually sending that message using the satellite system, the Iridium system. You still have the function on the unit to send shortcut messages and actually type a message using the up and down arrows and pressing OK on letters and numbers on the screen, but I do find it easier if you're typing a long text rather than initiating a short text. It is easier to do it on the app on the phone, the Explore app. Just the final thing we noted, which is useful if you own other Garmin devices, in our frequently asked questions we've actually listed 80 devices now that you can pair with the inReach Mini 2. The idea is that if you own something like a Phoenix watch or an Instinct watch and it's on your wrist and you've got this strapped on your backpack, and you were to have an accident and you needed to use the SOS button but can't quite reach your backpack, you can initiate that as long as you've paired your, say, Phoenix watch or Instinct watch, as just a couple of examples. Some of the handheld devices you can pair with it. Like I say, there's an extensive list of 80 Garmin units that you can now pair, and you can initiate that SOS from that device that you've got paired with the unit. So that's a really nice function as well. So in general, it's just, it's a nice new unit with a lot of the original things that we liked on the original inReach, but just new features, and especially that great battery life that we're now seeing. And I'm just going to bring in the black one so you can see a difference in colour. So we actually stock the flame red one here, and to the left you can actually see the black unit as well. So I hope you found this video useful, and thanks for watching.